This tutorial is to show you some shortcuts and helpful tips with how to use the district's Remind messaging system. Please go ahead and log in to your Remind messaging system. After you are in, you will see your classes over on the left. I will talk to you about how to add, edit, and delete them. The very first thing that you want to do is you want to check your settings. You may change your avatar here to any of the select pictures they have. That way, if they are all the same on the left, you will know the difference between your different classes or subgroups. You can also change the class name. Originally, this would say 6th grade section 1, but I wanted this to say just my 5th to 6th grade Walk to Learn students. I will explain to you what I did with my subgroup of 6th grade students in a little while. The class code is generated for you. You can change it, but it doesn't always use user-friendly codes. And then you'll want to make sure that it is represented for your school. If you have your own children that go to another school, it might default to that. So make sure that you change it. A lot of times, because the save button is here, people think that that's it. But if you keep going down, there are more settings. And there also is a way to reuse a class code if you want to use that every year so you don't have to change your codes on your notes. Or you can remove the whole class entirely and you can archive the class. I will actually show you that at the very end of the video when I archive a class that we create. Over here where it says create a class, I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you can create any class you want. The reason why you might want to do this is, for example, I have 5th graders that come over here for 6th grade math, and sometimes I have messages just for my 6th grade families, and sometimes I have messages for my 5th grade families. For example, right now, they're picking up supplies. I want my 6th graders to come to the school and pick them up. My 5th graders, I'm sending them to their elementary school so they can pick them up there. So for me to send a message out, it gets a little confusing when I'm trying to talk to just the 5th grade families or just the 6th grade families. So I spent some time using the customer help on Remind, and they were able to show me how to create my own class and how to move everyone around. So now I'm able to show you. So the class name, you can come up with any class you want. I'm just going to call this example class. And you will see that the class code just generates for himself. Remember I told you about the school, so I do need to change this to the middle school. And then you can select if you want to be able to engage in messages with your students or not. I prefer not to. I prefer to use this as a tool that, yes, my students can receive messages from me, but I do not want them messaging me back because it does go right to my cell phone on the app. And I would rather just communicate with families. So then you would create it, and then it will show up over on the side. So here's my example class here. Currently, I have no people in my example class. So let's go back to my 5th to 6th grade Walk to Learn class. I did get permission from my secretary at my school, Mrs. Eiffel. I have her son in my class, and she said I have permission to use their names. So I will not have to blur their names out. If you go to people and you search Alec, you will see that Alec shows up. Now, if I would have just shown Eiffel, it might show Jen and her husband, Bob, separately. So we're just going to go ahead and choose the student's name so they're all in a whole group. If I hover over the icon of the initials on the outside and click the check, you will see that now I have options to add to another class, or I can remove. I am going to add to that class that we just created. So the example class, and then you would push add. Now the great thing is since you clicked on Alec and the whole family, if I go to example class, now I have all 3 of them in there in just one click. So I do not have to do Jen Eiffel separately or her husband separately. It just takes the whole family if you choose the student. Now, if I go back to the 5th grade Walk to Learn, let's say that, oh, by the way, when you do move them to another classroom, it looks as though they're completely gone from this classroom right when it moved them. If you just research up here the name, it will pop back up. The only way that you will lose this student or family is if you push the remove button. Now, let's say that I want to remove maybe one parent from the classroom. Maybe they do not want to get the messages, or maybe there was a situation where you only are to communicate with one of the parents. So then you could click on just one of them and remove them, and the other one would still remain, or you could click on both and remove at the same time. Now, be careful with doing the checks on multiple students and families. I tried to do this in a large clump when I was moving my 6th graders out of the class with the 5th graders. And after I took all that time to do that, it would not allow me to do it in a large group. So I would recommend, um, a family or 2 at a time. Make sure that that works. So I do not want to remove them from this class currently, but if you did put them in another class and you no longer needed them in this class, then you would push remove. All right, so speaking of that other class, now we're in here, and now I can send my messages as I normally would, and that's all I have to do there. Now, I am going to show you how to remove them from this class. So I would push remove and then remove again. Now, let's say I no longer need this class. So I would go to settings and go all the way down to archive class and remove that class. So it's no longer here on the side. The other great feature that I've came across is the translated copies in Spanish. I have several families that we need to communicate in Spanish and actually one in Korean. And it's not too bad if you just have 1 or 2, because you'll just find them and send it. But if you have a group, such as my group that needs the Spanish copies, I needed them in their own subgroup. So I still have them in their other classrooms. So the student and maybe both parents, maybe one speaks Spanish and one does not. So that way they can still get the English copies, but then the translated copies will only now go to my 6th grade families that need it. Before I was trying to just send it right after my first text or right after my first message, but then not that people really cared, but then they're getting multiple messages and they were getting multiple attachments. And that's not as great when you're trying to use a tool to communicate. You want to communicate as effective as you can with what they need. So now that I have a group of just who needs the translated copies, I was able to go to all my classrooms and pull them and put them in one group. So now when I send them a message, we'll just go ahead and go here. I'll just show you an example of how to use translation. So you would highlight what you want, and then you'll just push translate, and then you'll find the one that you want. So Spanish in this case. Now, it will not transfer or translate the document this way. To do a document, the quickest way I have found is if it is in a Google Doc, you can go up to help and type in translate. When you type in translate, it will automatically make a copy of what you are showing, and it will translate it into whatever language that you chose. Then you can rename that document, and then you can attach that one here. So not only can you communicate with the message up here, but you can also communicate with a doc that you have translated. And again, if I am doing this in the section that is translated copies in English, I have them all as a group, and then that will be very user-friendly for me and for them to receive the information and not for everyone else. Again, I talked about the icons, but you'll see that I put different icons out here to remind me of what groups I want to send to. And I think I showed you already how to delete that class as well. So those are just some things that I have learned about Remind. So I asked Dr. Webster if I could take a few minutes to share that with you because I thought that might be helpful to some of you who use Remind often. I use Remind. I find it very user-friendly. I have been asked to use talking points for my Spanish translations, but I feel like if this program will do what I need as well, then it's one place that I can definitely send all my communication at once. So I am finding that Remind is getting the needs of for me and my families by my subgroups and also by the translations that I need. So I hope that helped you with a little bit more about the features of Remind. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me at byright@syc427.org if you need some help with any aspects of Remind. Again, their customer service was amazing and they were able to show this to me in a very quick manner. So I definitely would recommend you doing that. Okay, thank you.